So the goals. We want to have a great greeting, so we have a good first impression right off the bat. We want to make sure we collect guest card information.
No, just email Aisha.
Make sure the muting's working. Okay, we want to have a great greeting, collect the guest card information, determine the customer's needs in order to be able to show them why your property is a great fit for them, and build rapport throughout the process. So, for a greeting, we want to make sure that right when you see somebody coming toward the door that you stand up, you smile, and meet them halfway to the door. Make eye contact, shake their hand and introduce yourself. And that just really instantly gives you a leg up on any competitor, because it just doesn't happen that much anymore. A lot of times, you know, it's all happened to us where we walk into a business or a store or a restaurant and you're not greeted, nobody looks up at you, you're kind of feeling awkward and wondering which direction, you know, to turn to. And so this right here just sets it off on a good note. They get a smiling face, and you know, make sure you remember the customer's name so that you can use that throughout your encounter with them, as well as so when you collect the guest card information, which is going to happen just a few seconds later, you don't have to re-ask what their name was. You can just ask for a last name if they didn't give that to you. So, starting off with a great greeting, our game time card. So we call them game time guest cards because right when you get a phone call or somebody walks in the door, it is game time. It's go time. You need to drop all other, you know, little projects that you're working on so that you can focus your full attention to this customer or to the phone call and try not to multitask. And these game time cards are meant to remind us of everything we need to collect and kind of the flow that is ideal with, you know, verbiage that helps us, you know, have a nice flow and have it sound good without just feeling like you're asking them kind of a checklist of things. And so some people still like to type right into lead to lease, which is okay, but the game time card, it does help to build a little bit stronger rapport when you're able to write down things and look them in the eye and build rapport and ask questions throughout this instead of kind of, you know, having the computer screen in front of you while you type. And the game time cards with updated logo are on the file library, of course. And last week when I did the webinar, I got a question on what happens if you have a big group of people come in or there's just too many different tours trying to happen at once. And that's a great question because this game time card is not meant to be seen by the customers. And so there is a simplified version of this guest card that's also on the file library that I always like to have, you know, a few copies printed in every desk in case that happens, which it will, especially on the student housing side when it gets really busy. So then you would be able to give them that paper copy, or I know a lot of you are setting up your leasing kiosk, and you could always use the leasing kiosk for them to type in the guest card information if your office is really busy. So I wanted to point out one thing just that I've seen missed a lot, and that is the source, and that's we want to make sure that we find out how they heard about us so we can track our advertising and marketing dollars, and we can, you know, see what is working and cut out what is not. So asking them how you heard about the property is important. And that also, you know, leads into determining their needs, because if you're not asking questions and you're just kind of automatically, naturally go into a spiel on your property and how great it is and everything you have to offer, and if you haven't even asked them if they've been to the property before, then, you know, you could be wasting a ton of time if they've already been to the property, if they have a friend who lives there, if they've lived there previously, that you're going to need to determine their needs and listen to everything they have to say before you start really selling and pointing out the features that they're going to like, because we won't know unless we ask. So I like to use the tell me technique, and that is tell me what you're looking for in your apartment home. And so it's open-ended, and it allows them to speak and hopefully fill you in on what's important to them, whether that be a big closet, or whether that be it close to the university, or whether that be it has a bus line, or whether that, is pet-friendly. Whatever it is, you want to hear some things that are important to them so that you can focus your tour on what is important to them. So building rapport. Anytime, throughout collecting the guest card information, just try to grab on to anything that you have common ground with them. If it's a student, ask them what their major is. If you went to that university before or currently, talk about classes, or ask them where they're moving from. Maybe, you can, maybe you've been to where they used to live, or you can ask them about why they're moving, or if they have a new job, or do you have any pets? Pets always a good one to talk about if you're a pet-friendly building, which most of Horizons are, because people love to talk about their pets. And just, try to show that you're genuine and you're interested in the customer's needs as you're working on filling out your game time card and, learning what's important to them. So after you have finished the game time card, it's time to go on the tour. So make sure you remember to grab a copy of grab their photo ID and hold that while you tour. And then make sure to lead the customers to maintain control of the tour and the flow of it. Because if you just say, okay, this way, and kind of open the door for them and lead them out, you just open it up for people going in different directions. If there's multiple people together, them splitting up, and it just kind of can fall apart, especially if you do that when you walk into the mall, because they can go in different rooms, they start looking at different things, and there's no way for you to kind of gain that control back to help lead the flow of where you're going, what you're talking about, and what you're pointing out. So I like to show them the amenities first, and remember, focusing on the ones that they have mentioned are important to them, and then end by showing the model or vacant-ready unit, because you want to have the apartment, fresh and lasting on their mind, and really help them visualize living there. And so you are, pointing out anything that you heard them talk about that's important to them, as well as helping them, get excited about living there. And so at any point, you are going to have to start overcoming objections. And that is a good thing, because if the customer is not asking any questions, then it's not a good sign, because that means they've kind of already ruled out the property, and we don't even know why, and we don't even have an opportunity to try to combat what they may be thinking. So it's good if they are asking questions to try to overcome any objections, and I want to go through a few examples so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the first example is if a future resident or guarantor says it seems pretty expensive, and as a Horizon lease agent, we could say something like, well, all the utilities, cable, parking, and internet are included, and there's no hidden costs or nickel and diming. Plus, you can make monthly payments instead of paying all up front at once. So that's just pointing out, a competitor down the road might look like they're cheaper, but that's just for the initial rate of the lease. It doesn't include any utilities, which when you add that all up, we could end up being cheaper in the, when you see the full picture. So another example is it seems far from campus. And we could say the shuttle runs every 10 to 20 minutes, leaves from our property, and it keeps you from having to pay or find parking on campus. So although you can't walk to campus, there's still a lot of benefits from being at a property. Another one is I really wanted an apartment that faces the pool. And us as a leasing consultant could say, it is a beautiful view, isn't it? But the good part about not facing the pool is that you don't get the occasional noise of the residents who like to hang out late at night when you're trying to sleep. So you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. But again, overcoming objections, it's a good thing. And if they're not asking questions, we need to probe a little more for information to see what they're thinking. So now we have gone through the tour, and it's time to start to wind it down and talk about the different closing techniques. So there are 10 types of closing techniques that we're going to go over today. The first one is trial. So this is a pre-close used to measure the prospect's level of interest. And so an example would be, how do you think you'll arrange your furniture? And so again, if they're not saying much and they're not asking any questions, you can use this trial pre-close to kind of see if they're really visualizing themselves living there or if they're, not liking it for some reason. So a direct. That's when you know you have the agreement of the prospect and you ask directly for the lease. And you can say something like, let's go back to the office and take care of the paperwork. And that is, direct. That isn't asking a yes or no question, which then leaves, it open where a lot of times they'll just say no because it's easier or they're feeling uncomfortable or they're just not sure yet. So direct is, so that's direct. Number 3, which. This is offering the prospect an option or choice between 2 apartments. You could say, which do you prefer, the downstairs apartment or with the pecan-colored carpet, or the upstairs location overlooking the tennis courts? So that is, again, not asking a yes or no question and giving options, which is better than leaving yourself exposed to just have a no and then it's kind of, shut off. You kind of got to backpedal to get any more information. Number 4, summary. So recap or summarize the prospect's needs and demonstrate how the apartment community fits those needs. So to summarize, it appears that Canyon Springs has everything you're looking for. It has a gym 24 hours so you can stay fit as you requested. You have a great big closet to keep all your shoes, and we're pet friendly so you can bring your 2 dogs. So that's kind of summarizing, and reminding them what they said was important and showing them that your property has everything that they need. So why would they go anywhere else? Number 5, assumptive. Take this position that there is no question whether or not the prospect will leave. And I like to do this one a lot because when you're on a tour and it's going great and you have built that rapport and they're happy and they're visualizing themselves living there and you've done everything that you need to make them feel comfortable and confident that this is the right choice, then you're just going to continue the tour by closing in an assumptive way because, why wouldn't they want to lease? So basically you could say, Philip, while you're completing the rental application, I'll be preparing your lease and then we'll get you set to move in this weekend. Again, you're just continuing the flow, and now they'll have to say, backtrack and say, no, wait, I don't know if I'm ready, and then you can, listen to any objections they have to try to overcome those there. Number 6, if I could, would you? So offer to do what it takes to overcome a prospect's objection, but only if he commits to take the apartment up front. So you could say, if I could convince the manager to replace the carpet, would you take the apartment today? So that's, again, just trying to show you're going out of your way to make sure that they're happy and that you've done everything you can to make them feel comfortable and confident in signing a lease. Number 7, urgency. So imply a shortage of some sort to create urgency in the mind of a prospect to lease an apartment right now. You can say, this is the first one-bedroom located downstairs off the pool we've had in months. They don't come available often. So urgency is great because, it's not, I'm not trying to say you should lie about anything. I'm trying to say that on your property there's going to be some form of urgency, whether that be, conventional property who truly does only have, a few vacants, and it's, not like a student where there's a lot more. Or you can, on a student property, make sure that you let them know the sooner that you lease, the more likely we'll be able to meet all your preferences, whether that be if they want to live on the first floor, they want to live in a certain building, or if they want to live in an apartment next to their friends who already signed. The sooner that they do, the more likely they'll be able to meet those needs versus leasing at the end and then, right before school starts and there may not be anything left then. So number 8 is hold. So this is kind of like a last resort where you should only, try to use this if they're really walking out the door without leaving a deposit or filling out an application or anything. And so you could say, I know you really liked apartment 234. It's going to go really fast. Can I take the apartment off I can take the apartment off the market until 5 p.m. today with a $50 hold deposit. And so that is something that sometimes the conventional properties will do. And on the student side, it's more like they'll do a hold for like 24 hours or something to, to have a look and lease to make sure if they come back within 24 hours, they can have that same special apartment available. Number 9, incentive. So use this at the end to encourage the prospect to commit. And you could say, today only I can offer half off the deposit if you complete an application right now. And so there's different ways to use the incentive one, but it, again, is best if you leave that till the end and have it as a closing technique versus telling them at the beginning of their tour, when they first come in, telling them the prices or telling them the specials that you have, because that should be used at the end to help really, seal the deal and help them feel like they're getting a great value. And last one I want to talk about is team. And I love this one because it's just, I feel like it's positive all around. And that's where you have another teammate in your office contribute, to the close. And so this could be anything from just, another leasing agent to your manager to assistant or anybody else who's in the nearby area just chiming in. And that it could be about anything that they hear. It could be about, something more serious, like if the manager hears their concern about the rate. And then the manager could help chime in on overcoming that objection. Or it could be something just more light and positive if leasing manager hears the leasing agent and the customer talking about an event in the community or at the university, chiming in to say, oh yeah, I'm excited to go to that too. It looks really fun. We're going to have a event here at the property that you guys should come to afterwards, that kind of thing. And it just allows them to meet another smiling face from the office and have more confidence that our management team is going to take care of them and have the best interests in mind, because they're, committing to usually a year, and that's a big deal for anyone, especially for the students who have never signed a lease before. So I really like the team close, even if it's not about anything serious like a special or the rental rate or anything. I think it's great to really piggyback off each other on a regular basis. So those are kind of the 10 most used closing techniques. And afterwards, remember that, to enter all information into the Lead to Lease guest card and save that, and then instantly, send that thank you email with a summary, including, everything that you guys went over, any kind of special or something that you had offered them, and including contact information, phone numbers, any links to your website or social media, and again, if they're touring a bunch of properties, which usually people do, they usually try to do apartment hunting and, go to their top few options that they found. And so sending that follow-up email right away with some contact information and photos and a summary just really sets you apart, because they start to blend together when you go to a bunch of apartments. You kind of forget which was which of what you really liked. And then lastly, I want to just talk about follow-up real quick. So methods of follow-up, phone call, email, handwritten thank you note, a text, through social media, bringing food or goodies to some kind of group, like if you're going to a Greek meeting. Now, these are different methods of follow-up, and it's really, really important that follow-up is always a top priority for everyone, because most of the time, although we would love when people sign on the spot, in reality, most of the time people need, time to think about it, digest what their options, and or if it's on the student side, they need to talk to their parents or talk to, their friend that they really want to live with, and so follow-up is super, super important. And the goals of follow-up: to make another appointment, to get the customer to come back and hopefully sign the lease, to create urgency so that they don't kind of feel like they have, months to decide, especially on the student side when, say, if they're searching right now and it's February and they wouldn't actually move in until mid-August, they might feel like they have tons of time. So being able to create that urgency so that they don't just put it off and think, oh, I'll figure out where I'm going to live, in a few months, because I still have tons of time. Again, overcoming any objections that you have not talked to with them. Communicate any changes. Maybe their apartment that they really liked isn't available anymore, or maybe you have somebody else interested, but you wanted to check with them first before you offer it to them. You could invite them to an event at your property. That's always great, because it's no pressure for them, and they can come enjoy and see everybody having fun and meet some other residents. Communicating with guarantors. That's important, and that might be one of the reasons why a student didn't lease right away, because they need to talk to their guarantor, and you can offer to answer any questions or talk directly with them. And lastly, it is the opportunity to provide great customer service and show them the Horizon Way, which is what we're all about. So that is how you conduct a successful tour and close. I'm going to unmute so that we can I can open up for any questions. Do you guys have any questions?
Aisha, I don't have a question, but can I add something?
Okay, I muted everybody again, and unmuted you, Jen.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to add is when I do secret shops of properties, a lot of times even when I go in and visit, I'll get a response email, which is great, except it'll say, because I'll tell them that I'm looking for my stepdaughter, because clearly I'm too old to be going to college, and I'll get an email that'll say, oh, we think we have the best apartment for you. You're going to love it. School's so much fun here. I'm like, you didn't pay one bit of attention to what I said. Mm-hmm. It's not personalized. So to your point about sending that email, it's key, but please don't send just a flat, basic, plain email. to reiterate what Aisha said, put in there stuff that you guys talked about so they'll remember who you are, and make it personal. Because as soon as I get those emails, I shut people down. I'm out.
Yeah, it's a good point. Definitely. Okay, I'm going to unmute again, see if there's other questions. Anybody else?